What is going on, illustrious citizens of YouTube? I am Phil. This is the House of Chop, and today we're talking about the Langmuir Systems plasma table that's behind me here, and this should be a fun little video. We're actually going to get into a bunch of the upgrades that I've made on this, including a few we're actually going to make in the video today, my impressions on it after having it for 10 months and putting it through a couple of production runs, and then we're going to answer a bunch of the questions you guys asked over on Instagram. So without further ado, let's jump backward in time to when I originally started this video, and I swapped out the homegrown baking soda solution for the green stuff in the pan. I've emptied out the table and cleaned it up because we're gonna make some upgrades. First things first, took a shot at the washing soda here. This works pretty good. It leaves white deposits everywhere. Did an okay job with the rust. I still have a little rust in some places, but it was for the most part working. If you're on a budget, washing soda is not a bad idea. What was bothering me was the deposits on everything, mainly the rails. It was sort of sticking to the rails and was acting like it might pit them. And I didn't know if long-term that was gonna be an issue. So we're gonna upgrade to the green stuff over there. Got a big bucket of that. 5 gallons ends up to be about, 10 refreshes or a lifetime supply for this little table. So we're set and ready to go there. Also, gonna be dimpling this centerpiece here. This way, next time I gotta refresh this bad boy, I'm not fighting to get it all drained out. It'll just all run out. And I'm gonna include a ball valve to that. That way we just don't have to do anything but pull a lever. So that's the goals for today. Let's get this going. Perfect. Well, that went well. The dimple got me most of the way there. That little whack on the DOM tube just set the center down that little bit more it needed to get the level to slide over. And it's so critical that this stays straight. You don't want to mangle this thing up because you'll never get the table level again. So that's good to go. I'm happy with that. Next step, drainage. Got the table all sorted out, and now it's time to make the bug juice for the pan. They want that mixed in a 5 to 10% ratio, somewhere in there. We're running about 7, maybe a little bit more gallons in this one. It's just full to max capacity. So I'm thinking a half gallon of the bug juice to 7 gallons of water. Should be set. All right, so got the bucket, got my half gallon measuring can, funnel in there. Open up the old Pico. Gonna pour this upside down so we don't chug a lug. And away we go. Little mess, but wasn't a complete splashdown. There we go. We're all set up. That goes in here. Now we got a half gallon. All right, set. Well, it was beautiful when it was fresh and new. As you can see, since then, I put this sucker through a couple production runs. So before we get on to the next upgrade, let's test out the one we just did. We're gonna pop that ball valve underneath. I'm gonna get this drained out and cleaned up, and then we'll get on to building the extended laptop stand and get some storage underneath and get these legs tightened up. Talk about draining the swamp. Look at this. Woo, man, that is nasty. Been in there about 9 months. Bunch of cutting, just a couple production runs, whole lot of cutting. But I think we can well enough say the green stuff looks like it's doing what it's supposed to do. I'm not seeing any rust on anything. Water table's doing its job, catching all the nasties. So straight up, that's perfect. So we're gonna get it wiped down and cleaned out. Keep moving. Well, that was a fantastic mess, but check this out. While you guys weren't looking, I laid out all the material that we're gonna be using today for our build. And before we really get into it, I have to thank Online Metals. They sent all the material that we're gonna be using here today. And I want to tell you one of my favorite things about Online Metals. It just might be the photography on their website. If you've ever been out in the world, you saw a piece of material that you wanted to use, but you didn't know what it was called, so you couldn't just get with someone on the phone and order it up. Scroll through their website. You're gonna see all different profiles of material. You'll be able to select the one you want, and then you'll know the name for next time. Get the size you want, throw it in your cart, and they'll send it to you in just a few days. And if you jump over and get on their email list, they'll send you coupons. Most days you're getting 15, 20% off the material you want anyway. So hit the description, check out Online Metals, and let's get this build started. All right, so next thing to do here is figure out this angle for the laptop stand. You just angle finder here and just kind of really just eyeball it. It's really not a whole lot of rhyme or reason to this. It's looking pretty good. Maybe a little bit more flat. I want to be able to put tools up there and have them not slide off. Think that's gonna work? Probably some of you astute viewers noticed that the Craftsman drill press over here has a little bit of run out, and we were doing this in probably the, not a super precise way to do it anyway, but there was no way I was going to overcome that mess. But what I do end up doing is you'll notice one of those holes is slightly larger than the other. So we'll be able to pivot and line up with a level and then lock this down in place. If you've ever in that situation where the tools are less than ideal and you kind of need to get something to hit a nice 90, if you open up one just a little bit more than the other and your measurements are halfway decent to start with, you'll be in good shape. All right, time for a little pause in the action so I can further explain what I'm up to. So we're gonna tie these two pieces of tube together and we're gonna put an aluminum top on this. And this is gonna replace the current laptop stand. And the reason I wanted to do this is twofold. First, the laptop's here, it takes up this whole space, right? So I kept wanting to put tools somewhere. I had no place to put my tools. This will be a nice little benchtop surface to do that with. And if you notice, check this out, it tightens up the whole profile of the table. All this distance out here will now be gone. When I tuck it off on the side of the wall, this isn't gonna be hanging out in open space. So next step is to take this off and figure out what the distance is between these two pieces of tube. Oh, you've got to love those Fireball tool squares. The tabs set in the level, obviously the squares holding our 90, just clamp them in place. They're quick, fast. You don't have a set of these, just go get yourself a set. I'll put a link down in the description. Not sponsored by them, but man, they just make life easy. Gonna run the ground over here, tack them up right in place. Just gotta love that. I even use them on the dead tree stuff. Just awesome. It is time to kill the shine before we bend this sucker up. Otherwise, it'll be blinding me on the bench over there when I'm trying to work on this table. But people frequently ask, what do I do to get the texture on my aluminum around here? Simple. Grab your DA, 60 or 40 grit paper, and just let that sucker rip. Some of you may have just realized I just screwed up that bend. That bend needed to go the other way. So, it's salvageable. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna keep that way it is, because if we turned it around and tried to bend it the other way, we'd snap that aluminum right off. We're gonna bend this side into the same direction, bring it back over there, sand out the other side of it, and then be able to bend the front lip the correct way. So, no big deal, totally salvageable. In fact, probably could have hid it from you guys if I wanted to, but man, making videos ain't easy. It was around this moment right here that I realized I totally screwed this up majorly anyway. I actually needed to do the long bend first. I knew it, got distracted, and I'm paid the price. So now that the cussing's ended and the self-deprecation is over, I figured, you know what we can do? We can turn this into a teachable moment. I'm going to spin that table around, and we're going to call this segment, what to do if you really screw up, or how you can bend things with basic hand tools. You know, it just occurred to me, I should have called this segment, Don't Call It a Comeback. I bent metal like this for years. If you know the reference in the comment section. All right, so obviously I use the pieces from the break, but angle iron works perfect, so if that's what you have around, that's what you can use. Lock it down good with your clamps to the edge of the bench. Make sure you got everything lined up real tight on the edge. Then get yourself a hammer. Any old hammer would do. You don't need a body hammer. I actually used the sledge once, although I wouldn't say that was the right choice of tools. It worked. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna lightly walk that edge down. You don't wanna go smashing on it because you do not wanna stretch the metal. Just lightly walk it down edge to edge and it's gonna work perfect. This is how I bent metal all the time before I had the break. Check this out. This is one of those situations where patience is rewarded with a more pretty bend. If you just go hammering on it hard, just stretch and push the metal a little bit, you'll get some wrinkles and you'll Have a nice waving. Light taps, keep working it back and forth. Now when you're doing this and you get down to the end, what you don't want to hear is this sound. Hear that ring? That's like hammer on dolly technique. You're gonna stretch the metal, and that's how you're gonna get like the potato chip edges. So you don't want that. Like I said, when you get close to the end, keep feeling the back side of it, and just make sure you close it down nice and everything feels nice and smooth. If it's a little high, give it a little tap, and keep bringing it down. Undo your clamps, we should be good to go. Well, there we go. Crisis averted, teachable moments had. It's time to move on. Next thing we're gonna do is firm up the legs on this and get that shelf built out. That way we have a place to put the plasma and whatever else we want. To do it, I'm gonna use the same techniques I used in my last video to firm up the legs on the blast camera. I'm gonna weld out the angle iron in exactly the same way. So let's take a look back at that. That was a heavily compressed version of this build. If you feel like you missed a few details, go ahead, hit the card that's over my head. It'll take you right to the blast cabinet build, and I covered it all in very fine detail over there. So for now, let's get this expanded metal cut out and attached to the frame that I built for the plasma table, and then we'll move on to the Q&A. I think it's pretty safe to say I'm pretty pleased with that, but I just realized one problem I'm having here, something I didn't calculate for. When we lost the laptop stand, I lost where I hang this cable from. But as I'm looking at it, I think that bolt right there about to take up the cause. So it's time to bend this up a hanger. All right, let's get this Q&A going just the way we do it on Instagram. First question, what size table is this? Langmuir has two. They offered the Pro, which is their larger table, and then the CROSSFIRE, which is what you see behind me here. Now, I actually had the XL kit on this, and if you're gonna get the smaller table, if it fits your space better, definitely just work this upgrade into the budget. What it does is, the XL kit is gonna give you full run of the pan. So you're gonna get 25 this way by 33 that way. Next one's a good one. Will I get the Pro table? Tell you what, I'm so impressed with this, I wouldn't hesitate to buy anything from Langmuir. And if I can get that truck out of here, and then I'd have the space, oh yeah, I'd jump on that in a second. It's just hard to argue with the value that they're offering with that. You get the torch height control with the Z-axis, the additional space for cutting. I understand they are going to offer the torch height control for this very soon as an upgrade, or you can just throw it onto the CROSSFIRE when you're ordering it. But yeah, bang for the buck wise, I don't think you could anywhere get a better deal on a plasma table that size. It's hard to look at that and not go, yeah, that makes sense. You know, quickly before we get on to the next question, when we're talking about money and that sort of thing, it's important to note that the production runs I've done with this over the last 10 months, the few things I've just knocked out for people, I've paid for this table several times over. So if this was something you were thinking about, maybe you were extending yourself a little bit, this could help you settle your credit card debt pretty quick just by getting familiar with it and using it and coming up, if you got a few product ideas in mind or something like that, this sucker will get them cut out and yeah, you'll be in good shape quick. Taking it down to the floor for this next one, what plasma machine am I running? This is the Razor Cut 45. This is one of the machines Langmuir offers if you just get everything from them, the whole package deal. It comes with their upgraded torch, which takes hypertherm consumables. So you actually have the whole hypertherm catalog backing you up for your consumables. People ask me, does it use a lot of consumables? No, it's been super frugal on that, super impressed with it. If you have your own machine, though, you can check with Langmuir's website. They have a handful of machines that they know have issues with their current setup. It's very small, so you may want to just check over there. You don't have to get a machine from them. But if you do need one, we can feel very confident recommending this. It's been awesome. Is this as useful as Rosie from the Jetsons? Listen, this thing ain't going to clean your toilets, but I will say this. It's been a while since Rosie has had a firmware update, so I mean, you know what you need, so you make your decisions, but I'm going to go with the Langmuir table. All right, and let's just jump forward to the most frequently asked question on Instagram. What the heck is that? That is actually a silicone cooking funnel. Looks like this when you get it from the store. People call it a jellyfish, a splash guard, whatever you want to call it. Doesn't matter to me. What it's good for is it suppresses the arc. When you're working around this, if, I wear glasses, so I'd have to have, some tints over it, something like this. That actually knocks the arc down and just makes it easy to work around. And it will, keep the splash off the torch as well. So I'll put a link down in the description for these silicone cooking funnels. Just trim it up good, make sure it's out of the way of the flames, and yeah, you'll be good and set. And here's the other burning question that always comes up. How good do you have to be with computers and programming? Is this thing idiot-proof? I'll tell you this, Langmuir's put out a great piece of machinery. It's pretty idiot-proof in terms of the mechanicals of it, that sort of thing. Are you gonna need to learn a little bit in terms of figuring out how to draw digitally, generate some G codes and stuff like that? Yes, but here's the deal. This is my first CNC anything ever. I do not consider myself a computer guru, or heck, I'm not even a gamer. I don't even play games on computers. So I think this has is it a bit of a learning curve? Yes, but is it manageable? Absolutely. If you're interested in something like this, just jump on it. I can't imagine if you're making things out in the world right now, how you're gonna stay away from CNC that much longer anyway. This would be a great entry point. There it is, that other computer question. What software do I design in? The original Langmuir tutorials were based around Fusion 360 and seemed to me like if I'm gonna learn a new software, something that could take me out in all directions for the future was probably a good idea and a good place to be spending my time. You can use all kinds of design software, a load of it out there, so if you have competency in something else, you're good to go. And again, it wasn't all that hard to learn. Actually, I have a playlist that if you want to check that out, some of my Fusion 360 favorites from around YouTube, that was super helpful to get me up and going. But yeah, the drawing part of it's not all that bad. Don't have any in the pan right now, but what are my impressions of the plasma quench, the green stuff, whatever you want to call it? Listen, I can't see running this without it. I tried the washing soda, like as I said earlier, it was making a mess out of the rails and sort of things were still rusting. If you're on a budget, it's not a bad idea, like I said, but ultimately, I think the green stuff is definitely the bang for the buck is there. I'll put down in the description the one I bought, and then one other one I found called Sterling Cool or something to that nature. I'll put it down in the description that I think is probably a little bit better in terms of what it'll cost you overall, and you'll get a little bit more mileage out of it. So check it out, but I would definitely, I wouldn't run one without it. Another question that always comes up, what thickness will it cut? That's not really controlled by the Langmuir table. That's really more about the plasma machine you choose. So if you have a certain thickness range you want to hit, definitely check the specs on your machine. But most of these machines these days can cut way more than you will ever need. First timer suggestions for firing this up. Listen, take your time when you're assembling it, put it together right, make sure everything's level and square the way it's supposed to be. Again, hit my playlist I was telling you about. There's a little triangle in that playlist. It's got a bunch of holes in it. If you're gonna start with Fusion 360, start with that tutorial. You teach a ton of the things you're just gonna use repeatedly over and over without teaching you a bunch of things you don't need to know about Fusion. So if Fusion's your thing, do that. Other than that, just take your time, assemble it the way Langmuir said, and yeah, you should be good. Can you buy this as a complete unit? The answer is yes. You can get the table, the machine, the whole bit. Langmuir will just pack it out and send it to you. The only thing you'll ever need to add is a computer. And the good news there is it doesn't take a lot of power to run this. I think I bought the cheapest laptop imaginable off of Amazon, and it's been quite capable to run this table. Is this good for like the beginner or the hobbyist, or do you gotta be like some kind of professional fabricator to run one of these? Listen, I think Langmuir designed this with the beginner or the hobbyist in mind. Somebody who just wanted something out in their garage, could take advantage of some of the tools that were more expensive and out of reach before. I frequently think about this, like when people first got printers, like, you know what I mean? After you've used it for a while, it's just there. You use it, becomes part of your workflow. So absolutely, I was a beginner. This is my first, like I said, CNC anything, as I said before, and I still consider myself a beginner, and it's been great. This next one is a really good question. Electrical needs and how did I overcome them? All right, listen, I do a lot of welding and stuff out here, so you know, I was already set up for this. There was nothing really to overcome. As you can see, it's a regular old 220, 50 amp plug you would use on a welder. That's what the plasma is running on. The table itself is just a regular, you know, plug it into a wall kind of thing. There's no current real draw there. And you also want to remember too, that if you're gonna plasma cut, if you're not familiar with plasma cutting, you're going to need abundant, clean, dry air. If you want, hit this card here. I'll show you how I solve that problem for all, you know, my blasting cabinet and everything in here. But those are sort of some of the considerations you'll need if you're thinking about one of these tables. This comes up all the time. Was it difficult to put together, and did it take a long time? Langmuir made this super easy. The instructions were clear. It was easy to set up. I actually did a video on the unboxing of it, my impressions, the assembly, and then at the end of the video, you actually get to see me do my first cut. So boom, hit the box right there. I'll see you guys over there. If you have any more questions for me, hit the comment section, and I'll catch you on the next one.
That's beautiful, Chop.